you probably don't know, but your Galaxy phone, the Z Fold 7, the S25 Ultra, the one with the 200 megapixel sensor, they use something kind of sneaky in low light. So you tap the 3x, right, and you think you're using the telephoto, but sometimes if the light is trash, the phone may decide the telephoto is just not gonna work. It's gonna works, and it quietly stays on the 1x main camera, the 200 megapixel, and it just crops in. And yeah, I'm saying sometimes, not always. It depends on the light situation, the distance, and whatever the phones think is it's best in that specific moment. If you're lucky, you get a cleaner soon shot because obviously the main sensor usually grabs more light. Now, if you want more control over this behavior, look for auto lens switching. When it's on, the phone is more willing to do that main sensor cropping thing in low light. When it's off, it tends to stick to the actual zoom lens. All right, let me just let me make myself clear. Quick thing: auto lens switching. It's not inside the camera by default. It's kind of like a Samsung add-on called Camera Assistant. So it's actually an app you need to install on your phone. Just go to the Galaxy Store. It's that one right there, and I already installed it. So once it's installed, just go back to your camera app. Sometimes you have to close it and open it again to see all the add-ons and changes. And just go to settings, scroll down. Let me see, right there, right here, camera assistant. So you have a bunch of stuff there. You might find some of them useful. But this is what I'm talking about: auto lens switching. So when it's on, the phone is basically free, to swap cameras. Let me go back here. Yeah, the phone is just free to swap cameras if it thinks it will look better, whatever you're shooting at. Especially in low light situations or kind of close up stuff. If you're doing some close up stuff, and when it's off, it kind of tries harder to stick to the lens you picked. But just to just we're clear, this is not a full menu lock. That it's more like like you're influencing the phone's behavior, not exactly controlling every switch you do. And yes, there's a setting to keep the 200 megapixel on by default, kind of. Open your camera, go to settings to keep, and turn on the high picture resolution. Now, when you choose the 200 megapixel in photo mode, it can remember it next time you open the camera. Just don't force the 200 megapixel for everything. Use it for daylight details, and when you're sure you're gonna do like a big crop later. Believe it or not, in low light, the normal mode usually looks cleaner because the phone beams pixels plus merge multi-frames, and that cuts a lot of noise, improves dynamic range, and especially avoids some of that extra crispy artifacts you can get in full resolution. Let me prove something in real life. So if I block the telephoto, right at the bottom, I'm using my finger to block the telephoto. As you can see, I'm on 3x, that's the telephoto, and nothing happens. You can still see the image because the camera automatically decided. So I'm gonna stick with the 200 megapixel sensor because it's totally dark. The telephoto, I can't see anything, so I'm gonna do the cropping thing. I'm switching to 1x and nothing happens. Switching back to 3x and nothing happens. Let me just try it again here. I'm blocking the telephoto. See what I'm saying? Because the camera is seeing a lot of light, it's telling you, okay, you're supposed to be using the telephoto lens. If I go back to like a darker scene, So let me see. You probably got to switch, switch to the 1X main sensor and switch back to, see what I'm saying? You switch back to the telephoto blocked by my finger, and it's the camera is just telling you, okay, I'm gonna do the cropping thing. It would be incredible if that would be like an option, something you can decide. That would be incredible, but unfortunately, it's not. The UI says 3x, but in reality, the phone's just making the decision behind the scene. And this is why people get confused. The zoom number is what you ask for, not exactly what you get in, not exactly the sensor the camera's putting to work. And yeah, so at 3x, good light conditions, no problem. The camera usually sticks with the telephoto sensor, but indoors, low light situations, the camera just switch back to the main sensor because you have a pretty good chance to get a better photo. Just doing the cropping thing, it's usually better. And just so you know, 5x, it's mostly like a hybrid zoom. Since there isn't a true 5x lens on this camera. It's more like a mix of cropping, stabilization, a lot of detailed reconstruction behind the scene. You could call it like like a computational zoom. So that's why in in good light conditions it's okay. I mean, it works mostly, but in low light situation it sucks most of the times. So normally you would expect the 3x to look a little bit better because even when you are reaching further, it's a real glass, it's a real piece of glass, a real camera, separate camera. And the 2x, okay, it's not that far. You're not trying to reach that far, but it's just a crop from main sensor. But here's the catch, and I feel at this point I feel like the catch is kind of obvious. So the telephoto, yes, is a separate camera, but it's usually smaller. Case in point, here, the Z Fold7. It's smaller and darker, just darker. It's just not capable to grab that much light than the main sensor. Yeah, that's why usually the 2x looks better. Even when this just a crop from the main sensor, it looks better than the telephoto. If you're at a restaurant, indoors, or at a concert or whatever, just I would always try the 2x first, since like we said before, we're cropping from the main sensor, more light, it's supposed to be a better image. So but if you definitely need to go 3x, just try it, because sometimes it might be still cropping from the main sensor. It looks clean, just stay there. So last thing, like I said before, the 200 megapixel mode. People think that 200 megapixel sensor means better, period. Nope. Yes, 200 megapixel sensor means more detail, but only when the conditions are right. And here's the cheat code. So if you are in bright daylight and you're going to do a lot of cropping later, of course, keep the 200 megapixel sensor. But if you are in low light situation, I would always keep the main mode, the 12 megapixel sensor, because it beams pixels behind the scene. It does a lot more processing to keep the noise down. I guess the real takeaway here, it's the phone, it's basically choosing between clean and detailed all the time. And it all depends on the situation. Yeah, sometimes you get lucky and it jumps back to the main sensor, the big sensor, to rescue the zoom shot. But unfortunately, that's not like a switch you can control. It's just the phone making the call in the background, the phone being smart, I guess. Yeah, if Samsung would ask me, I would love to see that kind of feature on the app. The ability to switch and decide if I want to keep the telephoto sensor taking the 3x photo, or if I would, if I let the phone just decide to stay in the 200 megapixel sensor and do the cropping thing. That would be great.